In the inspection process, you're trying to see if there's any contaminants that need to be removed before the grinding begins for the prep. We're also looking for spalled concrete or any unevenness in the concrete that may need to be dealt with. Proper prep is a must when putting down an epoxy coating. You need to open the surface of the concrete to ensure the epoxy has a good solid bond. We're using a Newgrind 350 grinder to grind the concrete and the Trom Dust collector to keep the dust out of the air. You can see here as the grinder moves along, the concrete is opening up. Here, we're patching in a spalled area in the concrete. You will also patch joints and cracks, but you would want to use a flexible epoxy membrane for that. Seeing that this is a one-day system, we are mixing our ResinTek 100% solids epoxy fast cure so we can go back on it later and apply our top coat. This is a true one-day system. Here we have 2 parts of A and 1 part B, which is the hardener. You'll mix that for about 60 seconds and then you'll start applying. Now that the epoxy has been mixed, we're going to dump the epoxy on the floor and beads from one wall to the other across the garage floor. You'll want to space the beads about 4 to 6 feet from each other. The purpose of that is so we can lay the material evenly across the floor with an 18-inch roller after we're done cutting in. Now it's time to start spreading the epoxy. The beads are poured wall to wall, so you'll roll the epoxy out and then back roll it. Now that you're far enough into the rolling process, have your helper start broadcasting the flake. We're going to do this job until refusal, which means we are going to broadcast the flake until we have nothing but flake showing when this floor is coated. You can see he throws the flake up into the air so it scatters down to the ground nice and even. You don't want to throw the flake directly at the floor as this can cause piles. After about 3 hours, we will be removing the excess flake. I like to take a blower and blow it all into a corner and pick up the excess flake before we start scraping. Now that the excess flake is picked up off the floor, we can begin scraping the floor. You'll see here we want to scrape the floor in 3 or 4 different directions to assure that we don't miss any areas. You'll notice he is holding the scraper at an angle in the directions that he is scraping to keep all of the excess flake moving in the same direction. After scraping the floor, we will vacuum, followed by one more time through with our blower before we apply our top coat. The top coat we selected is ResinTek 85% solids polyaspartics. This product dries in about 3 hours, so you can have your garage back in service within 24 to 48 hours. We're going to apply this with a magic trowel. Then we're going to back roll it with an 18-inch roller. We found this is the fastest, easiest, and most even way to roll out the top coat. And here's your final product. Thank you for watching.